Okay, welcome everyone to Power BI for Government Community of Practice number 7. Just a little bit of a reminder in terms of the housekeeping. This is a Teams webinar. So I did notice there's a Q&A there, but you don't have to use a Q&A. If you do have any questions going through the session, you can just drop it straight into the chat. So don't worry about the Q&A. This session is being recorded and I will share it on my YouTube channel. So for those who have missed it, you can catch up there. So again, please do mute your mic if you're not talking. Cameras on and off, that's completely up to you. But again, if you have a question, just raise it up in the chat. What is the Power BI for Government Community of Practice? So this community is all about connecting with one another, learning and sharing. So today we have a few user stories. I'm going to share some learning about bookmarks and then also what's happening in the world of Power BI. We know that it's updating once a month. So my goal here is just to keep you up to date, see what's happening in the world of Power BI as it regularly updates. A little bit about myself. My name is Warren Dean. I'm founder here at Dataflows. I do Power BI services tailored for government. So if you're interested in Power BI training, report development, how do I roll out Power BI across my organization, etc., please do reach out. I will make a note that there is a Power BI training for government session in a couple of weeks. So we've had over 450 people in government attend this particular course. If you are interested, I will be hosting one in 2 weeks. So please shoot me an email for all the details and I can send you information for that. Also looking to run an advanced course as well. So this is the beginner course, but there is an advanced course. If any of you have been on the beginner course and you want to come on the advanced course, let me know. I've got 2 people locked in. We need a few more to run that advanced course. We do have another ebook giveaway. So thank you to the people at Packet. They are giving us a copy of, well, an ebook copy of Microsoft Power BI Quick Start Guide. So towards the end of the session, obviously you've registered and that's why you're here. I'll run that and someone will be the lucky winner of the Microsoft Power BI Quick Start Guide. So for our session today, I'll be going first in terms of just giving you some updates and what's happening in the world of Power BI. Then we're going to introduce Jonathan. Jonathan's just going to do a short introduction. He's from Microsoft. He's the Azure Data and AI lead, and he just wants to let you know how he can support you if you are in the local government space. Then we'll have Suman talking about Dataflows and his experience of using Dataflows and some of the pros and cons and what he's learned. And Tori is going to be talking about DAX and specifically USERELATIONSHIPs and how she's used that function within DAX. And then at the end, I'll talk about bookmarks and do a little bit of a learnings in terms of how do we use bookmarks, how to use them in Power BI Desktop and also in the service. So let's jump into our quarterly wrap. I think it was October was the last time we met. So what is new? What's happening in the world of Power BI? So one of the updates that we do have is we can now live connect to Excel up to 500,000 rows of data in the service, which is, let me demo it for you. So here I'm in the Power BI service. If I wanted to pull all the data behind this table out, I can click on the 3 dots and here I can export the data to Excel. So we have with the current layout, so that would come in that matrix form. I can click on summarize data and we have this new option here where we can actually do a live connection to this data set as it is in the service. So if I show you what that looks like, I've already pre-done it, it would come out something like this. And this is just handy. Obviously you can write your measures and your formulas in Power BI, but if you needed to write notes, maybe there's a list of people and you wanted to write, I've done that, called that person, you could write all that in here. Or if for some reason you wanted to do your own formulas, you're more comfortable with Excel, you can, actually let's do this one plus 10 for some reason, and you can create your own tables. What was that? Times 2. So that will update and it is live connected to the data set. Okay, next one we have the slicer type formatting has moved to the format pane. Let me demo that for you. So here I am in my Power BI report. If you can see over here, I have these as a drop-down box. Now, the way to change it into a drop-down box is you used to have to hover and try to catch that little arrow there, which is always frustrating as I'm trying to show people in training. Oh, you got to hover and you do that. You'll see this is now moved to over here. So no longer do I have to say hover, no, to the right, your other right. That's just over there. It is all here in the formats here. So in the slicer settings, we have all the options here for you now. So if you're looking for that, that's where that has moved. Unshared and unsynchronized axes for small multiple charts. So if you have a look, if you haven't used small multiples before, the purpose of a small multiple really is to show everything on the same axis. So you can see my data here. I'm sharing this axis and I won't have it on this side because it's all the same and it's all the same. So the max here is 0.8. If for some reason you don't want that, you can now go into your settings, go to the y-axis and turn the shared off and scale to fit, which will give you, see here. So now this one's max is 0.8 and this one goes to 0.4. So that's another setting that they've improved if you want to change that and have them the same size, but not sharing the same axes. Embed your Power BI organizational apps into Microsoft Teams. So previously you could embed reports into Teams, which was great. But now if your organization is not using apps is really how you share your content out to the enterprise. If now you can put the apps into Teams as well. So before it was only just reports, you can now put your whole app in there, which is good. You can subscribe to a report with filters applied. So if you haven't used subscriptions before, you can subscribe. You can see just here, there's a subscribe to report button. If you filter on a few things, so I only want to see this particular country and I want to see this particular year, it will remember your selections when you subscribe and you'll get an email, however you set it up, once a day, and it's already pre-filtered for you. So I think that's quite handy. My workspace governance improvement. So previously, well, not previously, everybody has my workspace in the Power BI service. And if a person leaves the organization, that my workspace just becomes orphaned and sits there and no one has access to it. So now all you Power BI admins, you can get into all the my workspaces that have been orphaned and you can access to all the reports and things in there. So that's very helpful if you're managing that from a governance aspect. And last one is paginated reports on a pro license. So previously, a paginated report, if you haven't used one before, it's just something you want to print. So you can put it on a page and then you can print them out. It's not kind of interactive like a Power BI report. This wasn't available to those of you on a pro license, but it now is. So you no longer need a premium license to use paginated reports. To do that, you would use Power BI Report Builder. That's all now covered on your pro license, which is great. All right. Next up, I would love to introduce Jonathan. He's from Microsoft. We've been chatting a bit, and I just wanted to really have him along, just introduce who he is, what he does, and how he can support you if you're in the local government space. So what I'm going to do is I'll stop sharing, and Jonathan, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, Warren. Yeah, just wanted to pop by just for a quick hello. Actually, there's quite a few people in here that I know, but for you guys who haven't met me, I'm Jonathan. I lead the Microsoft data and analytics engagement specifically with the local government industry in Australia. And so, yeah, we partner closely with Warren because one of the pillars that we like to help councils is with enablement and training. And the other two pillars is strategy and the technology as well. So yeah, just a quick summary of different ways we can support you guys in the industry. It can be everything from the early stages in the data journey where we've helped a council formulate a data strategy and a roadmap, and we like to work with different council stakeholders and not just the technology team to help people build the right working group to build the right strategy across council. Then it's everything from helping them execute that strategy, what initial proof of concept or data piece can we focus on with you guys to generate momentum across the council. And it's a lot, and I'm not sure if it's the same at your specific council, but it's a lot in customer data, trying to help individuals who work at the council get the same view of data instead of working on all different types of customer data, and a lot on financial data recently as well. And so, yeah, if you guys are interested in any areas of partnership, we can support it. It's everything from us talking to you guys about what other councils have done, bringing other councils in. We can also fund bringing different technology partners in to kickstart building a strategy, and also even delivering data proof of concepts to you guys as well. But yeah, that's just a quick summary. I'll drop my contact in the chat if anyone's interested. But I won't come between you guys and training. I think I'll hand over back to Warren or to Saman. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, so please do reach out. Microsoft and Jonathan are there to support you on that journey. So yeah, make use of that. Okay, share my screen again. So we're going to jump into our first presentation. Suman, who's been here before, thanks again for joining us, Suman, and sharing your knowledge with us. He's going to be talking about some of his learnings from using Dataflows. So Suman, if you would like to share your screen, I'll stop sharing. Yep, we can see that, Suman.
Great. Thanks, Warren. Thank you all for joining in. I'm Suman. I work as the Senior Data Analyst for Glen Eira City Council and based out in Melbourne. So today, a bit of disclaimer, I'll be talking about a bit on data architecture and not the amazing and glossy dashboards and reports which Warren talks about. But even if you are not having a data architecture or data warehousing background, I'll try to make things as simple as possible. And please feel free to stop me at any point in time if you have any questions. So I joined Glen Eira 3 years back, and we tried to build a data platform using Power BI and Microsoft Azure to facilitate automated reporting to help our business users to leverage the best of the technologies and tools that we have for self-service analytics. So this is the overview of the platform architecture. It looks a bit overwhelming, but essentially it consists of 3 parts. This green side is the external data sources. The data is pulled from the different data sources external to the organization, and it is put in the Microsoft Azure platform. And from there, we ingest the data into Power BI to generate the report. Now, when this was proposed from a consultant who helped us in building that, I, as a data architect, was asked to review this particular architecture. And on principle, it's looked fine. But one thing was a bit intriguing. So this is the Power BI side, the yellow that you are seeing. So what was proposed that the data first comes into Power BI data flow. It goes to Power BI data sets, which are familiar PBIX files, and then these two are scheduled, and we get the reports as an automated format. So now when I saw this architecture, I was a bit confused on why these two sets of things are there, which essentially does the same, serves the same purpose, the data sets and the Power BI data flow. Now, when we discussed with the consultants, I was told that this is a kind of layer which is built in Power BI to isolate it from the backend data system. So for example, tomorrow we have changed this Microsoft to something called Oracle. We don't need to bother about changing all those stuff over here. This is a level. We'll just populate the data flow and we can generate the report seamlessly. Well, in principle, it looked fine. Like these are, I'm in favor of this technology isolations that front end is decoupled from back end. But then what are the chances of changing a database from a council or from a government perspective? It's minimal. So we took this architecture and with a pinch of salt. So what was developed is we created the tables out here in these Power BI data flows, and then the same tables replicated over here. And then we did the modeling in the PBIX files, and then the reports were produced. Now, I mean, in the back of my mind, I was kept thinking, and when we started this architecture, this data flow was fairly new. We didn't have much of literature around this. But over a period of time, Microsoft has been working on this, developing their data flows. And I mean, we now have quite a lot of our literature from Microsoft. And then I started to feel that what we did was not 100% accurate way of using the data flow. Microsoft has a different philosophy altogether. And the first thing which we did correction is this data flow has nothing to do with Power BI. Now, data flow is a transformation service which runs on the cloud, and it is independent of Power BI and its solution. So we can create the data flow independent of Power BI. We can store data flow independent of Power BI. And that is one of the major things which we need to understand, that data flow has nothing to do with Power BI. It is a it is a transformation platform given to us, which can do a kind of lightweight data transformation and store it into different repository. When I say repository, it can be Azure Data Lake, or more commonly the Power BI workspaces where we store our data flows. And since it is developed in the cloud, it is accessible not only to Power BI, but also various enterprise tools which one might be using in their organization. So for example, since we have a data flow created over here, say in a Azure Storage Lake, it is accessible to both not only Power BI, but all these enterprise Microsoft applications like Power Apps, Power Automate, and things like that. So the first misconception that we took a course correction is Power BI. This Power BI data flow is a misnomer. We should call it data flow because it can work independent of Power BI. So then, so what are the benefits of Power BI? So a data flow is a product agnostic tool and that's what I told, that it has nothing to do with Power BI. We can store it and we can access it from other platforms as well. And it is not only a component of Power BI, you can get this data in other tools and services. And that's a kind of great advantage if you have a kind of a Microsoft ecosystem. It's not only Power BI. If you want to centralize the data and access it from other applications, not only Power BI, you can use data flow, get the data and access it from different locations. And this data transformation code can reside in a single location. And that's the big advantage. The transformations that we do is centralized. You don't need to replicate all these transformation logic across 4 or 5 different applications. And the creator, though it talks about data transformation and all those things, the creator who developed this data flow doesn't need to have great background in IT or IT technology developer background. They can reuse the Power Query skills which they have already acquired through using the Power BI data sets to build their PBIX files. And this runs entirely on the cloud, so we don't require any additional infrastructure. But we need to keep one thing in mind. It's not an area to dump the data, which we were doing originally. If we have the same tables in data flow and data set, that's a redundant use of data flow. We can use one of them instead. So these are some of the considerations that we need to keep in mind while coming to the Power BI, while using the Power BI data flow. Now I'll come to some of the use cases. Like one of the important use case is you can build a kind of data warehouse if you do not have sophisticated backend databases. You can use these data Power BI data flows to ingest data from various applications, and you can build the facts, dimension tables, and the star schema that we have in this particular data flow. And then it can be accessed from Power BI data sets. It can be accessed from other applications to take the benefit of the data warehouse. But the most important thing which we as Power BI developers can use is this is the second one. Say, for example, we have centralized table. This is an excellent place to keep all the centralized table, the date tables, the lookup tables, and things like that. So if we have two reports, one says sales and another is inventory, both are using the date fields. So what we can do is we can keep the date tables. Like initially what I was doing is we were copying the date tables into multiple places. I'll show one example. So this is a sophisticated date table which Warren had developed in one of the projects we were doing together. It has all those lot of transformation, and the code itself was quite big. So this is the code to develop the date table. Now, what was happening initially, we used the date table for one of our reports, and then we kept copying and repeating it into different Power BI files. Instead of that, what we can do is we can keep it in a centralized data flow and then ingest that date table into our sales PBIX file as well as inventory PBIX file. So that gives a better way of managing the data and the code, because I have only one instance of the data as well as one instance of the code. In the other model, what I would have done is, if I didn't have the data flow, I'll copy both. I'll have the date fields both in this PBIX file, this, and over here I'll use the same transformation twice, so my code gets repeated. If I need to change something, I'll have to change it in multiple places. So most of the central tables, for example, department, business unit, employees, customers, these kind of lookup tables, it is better to keep it in a centralized location through a data flow, and we can process it into multiple reports through one code, a code base, as well as one instance of the data. And that's one of the main things which we as a Power BI developer can can leverage this data flow. Also, like if we use certain views which are developed in backend tables, and if we do not have a backend table, sophisticated backend tables, we can create those kind of transformation over here and then use it into my PBIX file. So that's one of the most important use case for our for us as a Power BI developer. Use the tables which are central tables, basically the lookup tables, in one place, keep all the transformation logic in one particular place, and then you can access it seamlessly into multiple reports. So with that, I'll show a bit on the data flow if you have not seen it. So for example, this is a data flow which I had created. I had ingested 5, 6 tables. So within a data flow, you can ingest as many tables as you want, and then you can do the transformation logic changes using these edit tables. So once I do this edit table, you get the screen which is very familiar to you. This is the same one which you get while pressing the transform button of your PBIX file. So you can use the same kind of logic. You can merge queries, append queries, and all those kind of things, delete rows. So whatever you can do with Power Query over for your PBIX file, you can do same for these data flow tables. Now, so that's the bit about data flow. If you have any questions, I can take it now.
Sorry, Simon, there is a questions in the chat from Diego. What is the advantage of Dataflow over Azure Data Factory?
Okay, so Dataflow is a lightweight ETL tool. So if you do not want to use any sophisticated, that's what I was saying. If you do not want to use sophisticated ETL tools like Data Factory and say other Informatica and all those things which we had, you can use Dataflow to ingest data from various sources, have some lightweight transformation, and then you can use them in the reports. So there is no definite advantages, but it's an alternative to the sophisticated ETL tools that we use if you have lightweight transformations in that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And from David, do you need all the fields that you are importing?
It depends upon your requirement. Obviously, you don't need all the fields in the report. Nowadays, we say, particularly from data privacy, data security, import the fields only that you require. Don't have redundant things into your warehouse. Your warehouse should have things only that you are using in the report. It should not be a data dump.
Tori would like to know, can you control who edits the tables from the data flow?
Yes, definitely. You can. It's similar to other areas, like you can create the securities through the workspace. And for example, I can show that. So this is a workplace where you have this. So for example, if I go, sorry. Okay. So you can give this, I'm not sure why this is not going back. Started saving. So anyway, so you can control it through the way with which you do the workspace access. So I can control the access to the workspace, and then I can, I think there is a security access at the table level as well, not only at workspace. Workspace level, definitely it's there, but I haven't tried the table level access. I think it's there, but I need to check on that.
Question from Maria. Do you need a Power BI gateway to ingest data from on-prem to Power BI data flow?
Yes, you need a gateway. You need to get that created.
And if anyone else has got questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. There is a question that was earlier on that people have been talking about, which is good in the chat from Clara. I suppose it seems a bit of a broader question, but I suppose we could sum it down to, would a data flow be good for, large data?
Data flow can be good. One of the things that people have used it for when they had performance problems with their data sets, if they have large amount of transformation, a part of that transformation can be moved into data flow. That way you do a bit of load balancing between the transformations in data flow and data sets. But so far, I haven't come across any performance issues with the data that I have used, my data being small. But if there are performance issues, it can be split across into data flow and data sets to manage that performance bottlenecks.
Yeah, thanks. And I think Raphael has echoed that in the comments. He's made a similar comment as well. Okay, thanks, Suman. It was interesting to see a use of data flows there. What we'll do now is I'll share my screen again, and our next presenter is Tori. Probably one of the first times Tori's presenting, so really want to support her and thank you so much for coming and sharing what you've been doing. So Tori said she's by no means an expert. She really loves working with some of the DACs that she's been using and learning, and she just wants to share that learning with us in terms of how she's used the function USERELATIONSHIP. So thanks, Tori. Appreciate you putting this together and sharing with us. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. Okay, so a little bit about me. I'm senior data analyst at the City of Stonington. Whilst I have over 25 years in IT, mostly in application development, I've only actually been using Power BI for just over 18 months. So this is a report that I needed to produce for our business users. This is looking at how much work there is in the document management system that we have. Some of our teams only use Trim for their whole workflow, and we didn't have any visibility about where there were bottlenecks or problems. So I created this report, and so basically we have a date slicer. So they wanted to know how many Trim actions were created, how many emails were registered, how many Trims are currently open, how many were completed. And so I put it together, and then I realised that the completed total was only those that were created and completed in this date range. And of course, they wanted to know, regardless of when the action was created, that it was completed in this time frame. So in order to do that, you need to use relationship. So when you first join a date to your date table, it creates, or any columns between tables, it becomes an active relationship. In order to be able to look at when stuff was completed, I needed to add the complete date to the date table, and that created an inactive relationship, which is the dotted line. You can only use relationship if the function that takes a filter as an argument for for example, calculate. So therefore, to find my completed total, I calculate, and I already had a metric to count the number of rows. Use relationship, and you tell it to use the complete date with the calendar date instead of the action date. So I did that, and then my completed trims started to look like a better number. Now I've set it up so that the cards can drill through to see the details. So when they click on one of these cards, the button here lights up green, and they can click it to see the data behind the numbers. But when we did this, I was expecting 43, and I was only getting 15. And that was because I was getting the 15 that were active. And that's when I discovered that drill through uses the active relationship. So how to use an inactive relationship. And it took a little bit of Googling, and I think it was probably on about the 3rd page of Google that I found an answer that worked for me. And you create a measure to select the records in the inactive relationship. So I calculate selected value of my record key, and I tell it to use the relationship between the complete date and the calendar date. So then I added that measure to my drill through page, filtering out the blanks, and my problem was almost solved. But now my drill through page was only showing completed actions. So the solution was to have 2 drill through pages, one for the active relationship and one for the inactive relationship. But I only have 1 drill through button, so I needed to make it conditional. So I created a new measure to determine which page to navigate to. So selected value, if the selected value, the status was passed, because all my completed transactions should have a status of passed, I go to the trim data by complete date, otherwise I go to the trim data. And these have to exactly match the name of your pages. Then you go to your format button. I've already set it as a drill through. I click on the function for destination and I set it the field value to my selected value. And my problem is solved. If the user clicks on any visual except the completed trims, it goes to the trim data page. If they click on the completed trims, it goes to the trim data by complete date. And the result was one happy business user. If I just take you through it here. So here's the live version. If I click on total trims and go, I've put a card there so you don't have to count all the rows to double check. If they press on completed trims, I get 43 in the completed total. And all the other drill through works as I would expect. And that's it in a nutshell.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Tori. If there's any questions, drop them in the chat. So we just got a comment from Linda, appreciating the presentation, because she's about to do something very similar. If there's any other questions, drop them in. But yeah, something you think shouldn't be that hard. Obviously, there's a lot of steps that involve to actually get it to work the way you want. And so that's why, understanding your data model, the relationships, inactive and active relationships, and understanding, obviously, that drill through is going to take all the filters that are being applied and push it onto the other page. So that's some of Tori's issue there, that she had to be able to tell it. Rahul would like to know, how do you access trim data? I think that's a question I have heard before.
Well, we're building a data stack, so we pull the data from our source systems into one place, so that we can do cross-system reporting in the future.
Excellent. Thank you. Just a thank you from Rima. All right, excellent. No, thanks, Tori. Definitely learned something. Appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you. Okay, let me jump on the screen share again. Okay, so for my presentation, we'll finish out our session. We're going to be talking about bookmarks and how do we use bookmarks in Power BI. And also, you might not have used them in the Power BI service, but it's actually very powerful for end users. How do we use bookmarks in the Power BI service? But before we do that, let's jump into our free ebook giveaway. So I'll just bring up Power BI. So what I've done here, similar to how I did it last time, I've just got a random number generator, and you can see here we have 197 people registered. So I've got all your names in here. So just to show that it's been fair, I'm going to click refresh, and that will select a random number. And this winner table only contains the random number winner. So if I select here, the company of our winner is Stonington, and the winner is Diana and Dino. So congratulations. I will be in touch with you. I'll take a print screen so I don't forget. I'll be in touch with you and I'll send you a copy. Well, Packet will be in touch to send you a copy of that book. So here in my demo Power BI report, actually a bit of a, I suppose, segue. This is a the data storytelling Power BI course where we take this terrible looking Power BI report and step it through the six steps of data storytelling and end up with something that actually has meaning and purpose. So if you are interested in data storytelling, it's a half-day course that we do run. But in terms of our training today, what we want to do is we want to look at bookmarks. So to get your bookmarks, you need to go up here into the view ribbon. And you will see we have bookmarks, obviously filters are already there, but we have bookmarks. Selection is also useful. So if I turn both of those on, I can create. So selection, if you haven't seen this before, is all the elements on my page. I can turn them on or off, or I can change their tab order. So when people are tabbing through a report, if they use that. So that's what the selection's for. And then this is where I can use a bookmark where I can save a state of my report. So if I go over here and let's say I want to pick a year, so I pick 2014, I want to pick a particular product, I'll go Velo. And then maybe even I want to spotlight. So if I want to spotlight on this first chart here, I can click spotlight. And all that does is it highlights that chart and removes everything else. So I can save this as a bookmark. So I can click on add and it gets a name of bookmark 1. Now, if we look at the options in the bookmark, we can see obviously I can update the bookmark, so I can redo it, and I'll show you how to do that. I can give it a name, I can delete it, or I can have a group of bookmarks. But the three that are interesting that I want to show you is the different options of data, display, and current page. So what I'll do is I'll just make another bookmark which has all of this off, which I should have done before. So if I unspot like that, and I'll just remove all of these, and I'll add another bookmark. So this one, just call 1, and this one I'll call 2, and I can move their order around. So 1, and I click here, 2. So what do these options do here on the side? So if I turn data off, what it's going to do is it's just going to not filter the data how I've selected. So if you remember, I have the data filtered on the year and the segment. So if I untick data box, I go data, you can see my spotlight's still there, but it's a little bit hard to see because it's spotlighted, but you can see these filters aren't being applied. So data filters are not applied if we tick that first one. So I'll tick that back on. What if I turn off display? So if I go to bookmark 1, here we have everything working fine. If I go to bookmark 2, you can see my spotlight is not being applied because display talks about the selection. So you could even, go here and start ticking a whole heap of things off as well. And number 3 is if I'm on another page, so if the user, if you're going to show them, you want to navigate to another page, when they select 2, it's going to go to that particular page. And so what I can do is I can turn that off. So current page here is unticked, and it's still going to do something on the attention page. You can see there the page doesn't change. This one it does, so I go back to 1. So if I click on here, click on 2, it's going to stay on page 2. So if you want to change things on other pages but not move your user from your page, that's what they do. So again, that was just a bit of a highlight of data, display, and current page. Now, in Power BI Desktop, obviously we have all this extra functionality, but when we move to the Power BI service, we move to the report server, we're not going to see these options here. So anything that is gray, we're not going to have an option. So what we would need to do is we need to put this into a box. So if we go to insert, and if I select a button, I can have a bookmark button. Usually I use a blank ones because I don't like this particular logo here. And what I need to do is assign something to this particular button. So what we can do is we want bookmark 2. So if I select that button, just get rid of all these because we don't need them anymore, and go to the format panel here, and I need to assign it an action. So it already has bookmark because I selected the bookmark, but buttons can do a lot of different things. They can do a drill through, as Tori showed us. It can activate Q&A, it can send you to a URL. For us, we do want it as a bookmark. And if I select the bookmark here, now this bookmark will be active in terms of clicking it. So in Power BI Desktop, I have to hold Control. And actually, I put it on the wrong page. Let's just go back to the bookmark view. Bookmarks. Turn on display and current page. And I hold Control. It will activate that and take it back to attention. So bookmarks are really good, and these ones are for your whole report. So everyone will have access to these bookmarks. And if people need to click on, in this example, I have 4 slices. We want to try to reduce the amount of clicks for them to answer their business questions via the Power BI report. So that is bookmarks in Power BI Desktop. If you've got any questions, drop it in the chat. Now I want to show you how it works in the Power BI service. So bring this across. So I'm in the Power BI service. Up in the top right here, we do have a bookmarks section. So you do have this one that says return to default. You do have bookmarks here, and you will note what we were doing before is we weren't creating a personal bookmark. So for people in your organization, they can have their own bookmarks. What we created before was more of a report bookmark. So if we have a look, you can see here, these are some I created yesterday, but I had a 2013 filter and a 2014 filter and small business. So these are available to everyone. I haven't put a button there, but they would need a button to access that unless they knew how to do this step here. And as I click, it's going to move through the bookmarks. Now, let's say, for example, we have a manager, and the manager for this particular company is only interested in Canada. And maybe they're only interested in a certain product, both years. So when a manager comes in, they don't want to have to click Canada, Velo, and maybe, let's say 2014 was the latest year. They don't want to have to click these 3 things every time they come into the Power BI service. So that is what a personal bookmark is for. So what you can do is you can add a personal bookmark. And again, this is not for everyone. It's just for the user who's logged in. And I'm going to call it manager. So it's for my manager. And I can tick the make default box. And when I tick this, it means whenever they come to this Power BI report, it will already be defaulted on this personal bookmark for this individual. So just to show you that it works, if I get out of all this, I'll go back out and jump into my test workspace, open up that report. My personal bookmark has been applied of Canada and the product and the year. So this is really handy, especially when you're handing over reports and you're showing people. I love to show them this functionality because obviously time's precious. We don't want to be clicking multiple things. So that is an option for you that you can set up in there. So obviously you can have one as default, but they can have their own bookmarks, and you can put it here in the bookmark pane for them. Also good if you're doing presentations and there's certain things that you want to present on, you can run through with bookmarks instead of you going and clicking all the various things to get to the next selection. All right. Any questions about bookmarks and using bookmarks in Power BI? Yes, I will be. So thank you for that question. I will be. So this session is recorded. I'll have to edit it and put it up, but it should be out on tomorrow, and I'll send you all an email for link so you can watch the session. All right. Well, That's it for me. So thanks everyone for coming along. We've finished a little bit early, so I'll give you 10 minutes back into your lunchtime. Again, I'm trying to run an advanced course, so do reach out if you're interested in advanced Power BI training. We do cover things like user relationships, so that is in there as well. I am running a normal beginners Power BI training end-to-end in a couple of weeks, so if you are interested, do reach out about that. But otherwise, thank you once again to our presenters. Really appreciate your time. Thanks everyone for coming with us, and hopefully see you in another quarter when we'll catch up again. If anyone does have a presentation, please do reach out. We do have one presentation for our next quarter. I'm looking for someone else. If you want to present, doesn't have to be amazing, but you can see we can learn and share and grow together. So thanks everyone for your time, and I'll hope to see you next quarter.